I have been trying to make money online for the last 6 years, and I thought I would tell you about whether any of it has actually worked. So in a nutshell then, my story is that I used to be a teacher. I was a head of faculty in a very busy secondary school or high school in the UK, and I had a team of people. I loved my job, but for a variety of reasons, which I won't go into because this will not be a short story then, I decided to quit about 6.5 years ago, I think it was. I'm losing track now because it has been a considerable chunk of time. I had put some money aside because I'd always planned to take some time out, maybe do some retraining or some traveling or something like that. So I had a pot of money and I thought I will just live on that for a year and then I'll probably go back into teaching or into a new type of work. And during that year off, I started to dabble in making a bit of money online. There were two things that I started. One of them was reselling on eBay, and the second one was this YouTube channel, which at that time was all about my reselling stuff on eBay. I started those two things, and at the end of the first year of doing it, which was actually probably only about 7 or 8 months, I filed my first tax return as a self-employed person, and I had made about £3,000 profit in that first period of time that took me to the end of that first calendar year. I thought to myself, do you know what? I haven't spent all of that money that I'd set aside, and I'd had this £3,000 profit that I'd made to top things up. And I thought to myself, do you know what? I think I can make this stretch into a second year. So I kind of went into a second year of doing much the same thing, and then started dabbling in a few other types of online income stream, some of which sort of worked, some of which didn't. We'll get into that in a little while. I managed to kind of last another year, and I think in that year I filed a tax return that was, I'm going to say, either £6,000 or £8,000, and then plus I had a bit of a top up left from that pot of money that I had put aside. And at that point I just thought to myself, can I make this a third year? And it was around that time that we had 2020 and everything that happened in that year. I somehow made it work. I have pieced together over the last 6 years, I've pieced together an online income. And I thought I would talk to you about it because it hasn't been like the ones that you sometimes see on the internet, where people have just started making tens of thousands of pounds every month. My story is a little bit different from that. So how about I take you through my different income streams, the different things that I have got going, and I will talk to you about the highs and lows of those and what has worked and what hasn't worked. Before I start, I do want to be absolutely clear that I make what would be considered a part-time income online. I don't make a full-time income as yet, but I am slowly and gradually creeping towards that. If you do want to see my income reports, then you need to head over to my membership on Substack. There is some free material on there, and there are quite often free previews at the beginning of all of the different posts and things that I have on there. The income reports are behind a paywall though, for obvious reasons. I am much more comfortable going into all the nitty-gritty of the numbers with my members rather than broadcasting it to absolutely everyone online. That is my personal decision, and I am happy with it, and I am sticking to it. However, I'm prepared to talk to you in ballpark figures during this video and give you some indication of how these income streams fit financially sort of into that bigger picture. So let's start with that original income stream then, reselling on eBay. When I started out, I was reselling absolutely everything. I think I tried clothing, I tried bric-a-brac, I even at one point tried electronics, which I absolutely hated. I eventually settled on selling jewelry. And that was in part because it was really easy to store and I could mostly buy it in really big job lots. I then got fed up with eBay. Those of you that are in the reselling community that are still here, spending some time with me and listening to me talk about all the different things that I'm trying out, you will probably know all of the many reasons why eBay just it's just not for me anymore. So I switched over to Etsy because I had Etsy shops before for other things, and I used Etsy myself for buying handmade gifts and vintage things. And I thought, right, let's give that a go. So I switched everything over to Etsy, and I now focus on, yes, jewellery, but vintage items in general. So there are some homewares and vintage books and things on that Etsy shop. And there should be, I think, a link in the description still, if you want to go and have a look at that. And this reselling income stream is something that I do for a day and a half a week. I have previously taken massive chunks of time off over the summer when sales quieten down, and when I do some work for an exam board, you know, marking exam papers and things, that all tends to happen towards the beginning of the summer. So I don't work the shop full time by any stretch of the imagination. And actually this week I have been recording how much time I spend on everything. And so when I say I work all day on Monday, I actually worked 6 hours on Monday. So it's not even a full-time day. But from that day and a half, roughly speaking, that I work over the course of the year, I get my biggest chunk of income from that income stream still. And I don't have massive plans for that income stream in terms of growing it in size and kind of making it bigger. Those of you that are in my membership on Substack have heard me talk recently about how I am trying to wring out every drop of profit that I can from that amount of time that I spend on that income stream. So I am hoping to grow my profit from that business by about £1,500, about £1,500 in 2025. So I do have a goal for it, but it's not so much about growth, it's about squeezing out a load of profit. And I talk about my reselling income on here. I will get back to making some work from home vlogs and things at some point soon, but I also talk about that over on Substack as well. So that is my first biggest income stream. My second biggest income stream is actually this YouTube channel, which might surprise, I've just spilt my tea on myself. That might surprise you because I haven't been on here very much at all lately. I think I managed maybe 2 videos last year and 1 so far this year, and this will be the second one this year. But I have got a decent back catalogue, of which a handful of videos bring in a few pounds every month. And I had one video that took off probably about 18 months ago, I think it might have been now. And that has just steadily kept going in the background and has provided me with ad revenue. The other way that this YouTube channel has worked really, really well for me is that it feeds into other things that I'm doing. So most of my members on Substack have come to me on there, they've joined the membership because they have found me on YouTube. So even when I'm not uploading videos, I'm still reaching people who might be interested in hearing more from me and who do sort of want more content and things. So this YouTube channel brings in a few £1,000s a year. And hopefully now that I'm back making videos again, I'll be able to grow that even more. My next biggest income stream is that membership that I do keep sort of name dropping. Well, not name dropping, I haven't mentioned the name of it yet, but it's over on Substack, and it's where people pay me either monthly or annually for extra content. And I am eventually going to do, no, not eventually, this month I am going to do a proper tour of Substack and the membership and show you guys how you can use it as an income stream and how you can use it to build a community of like-minded people that are all interested in the same thing that you are interested in. It's fantastic for doing that. I have about 76 paid subscribers, something like that, over on Substack. So the price is £6 a month, or it is £35 for the whole year, which is obviously the most, what's the word, economical way of doing things. And in exchange for that, people get 4 to 6 pieces of content every month. The vast majority of that content is video content because that's what I feel most comfortable making. And occasionally it's a written article, but for the most part it's videos, and it's over there that I share my monthly income reports and a quarterly income report and an annual income report. I also film behind the scenes vlogs. I make videos about all of my different goals goals and targets that I'm setting for myself. I also record chatty catch-ups every month where I share the highs and the lows of everything that I've been going through over the last few weeks. And this month I am introducing co-working sessions where we can get hopefully 30 minutes to an hour of work done together over Zoom or Google Meet. And I absolutely love running it. I really enjoy it. It really suits me. And it is probably my favorite income stream, even though it's not the one that makes me the most money. It also feels like an ongoing project, so I never really get bored of it. I'm always thinking of different things that I can add into it. So for example, I recently added early access to YouTube videos because I thought, well, I'm back on YouTube, I'm making these videos, how can I bring an extra feature or an extra benefit to my members? And I thought, well, actually, you can have them early and they're ad-free on Substack. So that's a little bonus piece of content that they've got. There's also a chat feature, you can direct message. There's a little social media sort of channel on Substack as well. Honestly, it's the best thing. It is the best thing I have done. If you want to check it out before I make a video about it, you're more than welcome to. There is a link to it in the description box below. You can just sign up and join the mailing list without paying for anything. So that is an option as well, because that way you get the free previews of the videos. Sometimes it's like 3 minutes of a video. Other times it can be as much as 8 to 10 minutes, depending on the length of the video that I've added to the membership. So those three that I've mentioned so far are my top 3 income streams. And they do prove that you can make money online. And actually, I would say if I either put more time into those 3 things or was perhaps more consistent. I am consistent with the membership because of course people are paying me directly for that. I'm fairly consistent with the shop, I would say, although I do have some months where I just kind of step back from it a bit, usually because I've got bored with some of the processes and things that go on behind the scenes of running a shop, and I step away a bit and come back to it. YouTube I have not been consistent with, but I've been lucky enough that I'm still able to make some money from it. If you take just those 3 things that I'm doing, and if you add in that time and perhaps extra consistency with some of them, then you could definitely turn the part-time wage that I make from it into something full-time. Now, why don't I? That is a good question. I am someone whose brain scurries around like a squirrel, and I have learned to accept it. So you get lots and lots of advice online about how you should do one thing, stick to it, become an expert, build it up, and make all your money from that, and then at that point add in something else and then build that up and then add the next thing. Completely logical, works absolutely brilliantly for loads of people if your brain works like that. Mine does not. I get bored very easily and distracted very easily, and working from home makes that distraction even worse because I'm surrounded by books and wool that I can crochet things with, and I'm distracted by the fact that my garden is just over there and I can always go and do jobs, and I'm a 5-minute walk from my allotment, and there's just so many options. There's the TV as well, there's all the podcasts that I can listen to, although I do listen to a lot of those while I'm working. So my world is full, my work from home life is full of the most beautiful, wonderful distractions, and that in a way is one of the benefits of working from home and being self-employed, is that I have access to all of those things that I completely neglected while I was working. Not even a 9-to-5. Teaching is not a 9-to-5, as most of you probably realise. But those things are also, they are a blessing and a curse. That is the expression, isn't it? They are a blessing and a curse. And I'm very easily distracted. I have always experimented and added in other income streams, which I'm going to talk about next, is the slightly smaller ones that are not bringing in the bulk of what I make, but are still combining together to make me enough money for me to pay my share of the household expenses and to have a little bit of spending money now as well. So the next ones coming up then are affiliate income. I think that's the next biggest. No, it's not. We'll come back to that. The next biggest one is the work that I do for the biggest exam board that we have in the UK. I work for them once a year, and I do something called coursework moderation, which is where I am checking the marking that schools have, like the assessment that they have done of the coursework in their school. I have to go through quite a number of pieces I have to check it, I have to give them personalized feedback about how they are interpreting the mark scheme and how accurate they are. So I end up writing probably about 30 to 35 very detailed reports over the course of a month. It's quite intense, but I really enjoy it, and it gives me a connection to my profession, and it uses the qualifications and the experience and all of those things that I have got. And it also offers me what will end up being probably quite a small pension, but because I can do this work well into retirement, I'm probably going to be doing this for the next, 20, 25, 30 years. My team leader is in her 80s and she is still doing it. So it's work that I enjoy, even though it's quite difficult and intense and over a short period. And, it brings me, what does it bring me roughly? Anywhere between £1,000 to £1,500 a year. It just depends on how much I get given to do. I don't have a huge amount of control over that, but it's still a really welcome sum of money, because it always comes in at the point where things like the vintage shop have dipped down and I'm not selling quite as much over the summer. So it just kind of plugs a gap, which is fantastic. And that's one of the things that I really like about having this sort of creative portfolio of online income streams. They go up and down at slightly different times of the year. And if you are quite canny about the things that you are choosing to do, you can either work it that you earn so much in the run up to Christmas that you are able to subsidize some of those quieter months over the summer, or you're able to find enough things where some things take off in the summer and other things take off in the winter or the spring or so on. So something you could think about doing is figuring out if there is any kind of online work that you can do that's part of your professional life that means that you can stay up to date and kind of keep your hand in the industry that you've been working in. The next thing I want to talk about is affiliate income. I'm sure you all know what that is by now. It's where you include a link to a product or a service that you use that you are essentially recommending to other people. And then when they pay for that product or service, you get essentially a percentage of that. You get like a little kickback from that. And sometimes that's ongoing as long as the person continues to use the service. Other times it can just last for the first year of that person using that service. I have dabbled in that a little bit. So when I've done it, it has worked really, really well. But it's something that I have found a little bit difficult to maintain, and also very wary of not wanting to bombard people with those things, and also wanting to make sure that if I'm recommending something with an affiliate link, it is a product or service that I genuinely use and that I genuinely think is really good. So there's only two that I've got. So there's BookBolt, which I don't use all the elements of, but the elements of it that I do use are really, really good. And then there's Repper, which is the pattern maker app, which is just fantastic. I have made money from using Repper to create patterns for scrapbook paper pads, and I would still recommend it. And in fact, it is something that I should start incorporating back into my videos again. So over the course of a year, again, it depends how much I'm promoting those affiliate links. So it could be anything from a couple of £100 to a couple of £1,000, just depending on how much I'm actually promoting those links. But it's proof of concept, right? It does actually work, but you do have to put the work into it in order to make any money from it. And also, I would say you have to try and be as genuine as you can possibly manage. Even though you're partly thinking about the money that you can make, you have really got to try and pull back from that and make sure you're only promoting what you use and think is good. And I think part of my problem with it is that because I am such a bootstrapper, there are so few things that I actually pay for in my own business that I'm not really in a position to recommend anything to anyone else as yet. Now, as my income streams are gradually growing, I probably will inevitably start incorporating some other software or services or products or things into what I'm doing, and at that point I'll start to be able to recommend them and have those affiliate links again. So I think as long as you are clear about what it is that you are promoting, affiliate links can work really, really well. One of the other income streams that I have found has worked quite well for me is Amazon KDP. I have a selection of notebooks on there and scrapbook paper pads, and I think I've got 2 or 3 colouring books, which haven't done very well for me, and like a few other bits and pieces that I experimented with. A few any year diaries I think are still on there. I learned how to do it, I had quite a lot of fun with it, and I am still making money from it. For those of you that do KDP, you'll be interested to know probably that I have a very, very low level lottery ad campaign running on those books that for the most part I leave alone throughout the course of the year, and it just does its thing in the background. I do still make organic sales if that's switched off. I didn't accidentally switch it off. It actually came to the end of the length of time that I had set it for, and I hadn't realized. So I think for a month and a half I had organic sales, and you know, they were pretty good, but the little ad campaign just gives everything a boost. I am still making money from that. It is definitely something that can work, but you do have to be realistic about it. So I do not make thousands of pounds a month from it. I don't even make thousands of pounds from it every year, but I make enough to contribute to some bill payments. I haven't really worked on it properly for about a year and a half. I think I have uploaded, I don't know, 2 or 3 little things. I've got quite a lot of half finished books on Canva that I still haven't finished and uploaded, so I'm treating it very, very casually. And actually this year I really do want to change that. Again, those of you in my membership know that this is coming up, that I really want to put some more effort into that this year, and I do have a plan as to how I'm going to do that. I've always had a plan for it, but I just never get around to actually doing the work. And the other tiny little income streams that I have is Redbubble, which makes a few £100s a year. And I have fairly recently started a print-on-demand shop on Etsy that I have had a few sales from. Nothing significant as yet, but it's something that I've started working on. And whenever I start these income streams, I always think to myself, well, let's just see if we can get to £100 a month. Pretty much everything I've told you, apart from Redbubble, I think everything does make £100 a month. Not the Etsy print on demand yet, because that's a fairly new thing. I'm going to see if I can get it to that amount. KDP works out as that on average over the course of a year. So that's kind of always what I'm aiming for. If I can have 10 or 12 things that make me £100 a month, then that's all my bills covered. And then what I can do is, and that kind of is what I'm doing, is I can pick the ones that are really working or that I really enjoy and just try and build those up. The ones that are a bit of a struggle, like Redbubble, I just leave that one alone now, and it just brings in this little bit of passive income, like I said, a few £100s a year just from that, and I don't have to do anything to earn it whatsoever. So it wasn't a waste of my time. A few £100s a year, it only takes a few years for that to, you know, hit over £1,000. It doesn't really take up time or headspace or anything like that. So that's definitely something that I would recommend as well, is once you've experimented with a few different things, whatever is working, build it and grow it. If it isn't working, and especially if you don't enjoy it, then maybe just drop it temporarily or permanently and just leave it alone and have a go at something else. So it is definitely possible to make money online. If you apply yourself in a different way from me, you can increase that income a lot quicker than I am, but I am approaching it in a way that really suits me. It really suits my lifestyle, it suits my brain, it suits my time of life as well. I'm in my 40s and I have gone I've already done the working flat out bit all hours of the day, and I've used the money that I made from that. It's gone into a pension, it's gone into savings, it's gone into investments, it's gone into a house. I've kind of done that bit, and for me, I'm at this point in my life where I need some money to keep those things going. So I like to pay a bit into savings and a bit into investments and things, and we are looking to you know, buy a slightly bigger house in a nicer area in the next 2 or 3 years. So I do need a bit of that, and I do need a bit of spending money. But essentially for me, where I am in life, I just need to get those bills paid, and I just need to have a bit left over to pay into those things that are going to benefit me in the future. And I just need a bit to spend. So if I can make enough money online to do that, then I am happy. If I was looking for a full-time salary from this, then I would spend more time on it. I would do a lot more research, and I would probably just hone in on maybe 2 or 3 things amongst the selection of things that I have spoken about. But you might be like me. You might be just looking for a little side project, or you might like the idea of having what I've got, which is this portfolio, quite a few different creative things that I just rotate round. I spiral round. There's something in education called the spiral curriculum, which works particularly well with certain subjects, like maths is one of them, where you circle round all the different sort of elements of mathematics. So you circle round and you build your skills each time, and you constantly revisit things, and you build them up and you build them up, and eventually they all start to connect with each other and they make sense. And I think of my online businesses in that way. I spiral around them. I spend a bit of time on each one, and I grow my skills, and suddenly my skills are starting to cross over. And something that I've learned for this income stream over here is relevant to this one over here. And it's all starting to mesh together. And it is a slower way of doing things. I would say possibly a more thorough way in some ways. I feel like I've got a really broad but also thorough understanding of all of the things that I do that kind of make up my online income. And my intention for this year is to get closer to that full-time income, to that amount of money that people would consider to be a full-time income. I will definitely share some of that progress on this channel, but if you want all of the details, all of the gory details, all the nitty-gritty, all of the actual real numbers for this, then you will have to head over to my membership. I hope that the things that I've talked about are helpful. If you want to know more about how to get started setting up a kind of portfolio online career for yourself, then let me know in the comments. Give me all your questions about where to begin and how to go about it, and I will see if I can answer them in a future video. But thank you so much for hanging out with me for a bit today. All of my future videos are going to be either about personal finance or creative online income. And if that sounds good to you, then make sure you are subscribed, and I will see you again soon in the next video.